every Thursday for the past few weeks and for every Thursday for the foreseeable future, I have been doing a series dedicated to Coach. Right now we are in the middle of looking at their 4 designers. Bonnie Cashin, an unknown designer era. Reed Krakoff was supposed to be today. I'll tell you why we're not talking about him today and when we will. And then Stuart Vevers and all kinds of other videos on Coach. Well, these designer videos are taking a very long time to do all the research on. The Reed Krakoff video especially involves me going through many catalogs in detail, taking notes and then organizing them. And it's just very time consuming and I'm not ready to do it yet. So we're pushing that for a week, and I also have a lot going on next week, so we may have to push it for 2 weeks. I apologize, but it is coming. What I thought we would do today instead, since we've been talking about the era of Coach where they made everything in their New York City factory, I thought we'd talk about their New York City factory. And I think the best way to do that is by going through the factory book. This book has a copyright date of 1977, but I first saw Coach advertise it for sale in one of their catalogs in 1981, and they listed it for $2. It was created to give customers a better understanding how Coach bags were made, which was by hand by New Yorkers in New York, at the original and at the time the only Coach factory. And some of the photographs from this book, it's mostly a book of pictures, were then used in the catalog, again to help market their products and educate customers. I picked this book up a few years ago, but it's very difficult to find now. So I thought we'd do a flip through for those Coach enthusiasts out there who I know would love to see what's in here, but you can't get your hands on it. And particularly if you are someone who collects vintage Coach bags, or at least enjoys them, it's really interesting to look through here and learn more about how they're made. So let's get started. But first, welcome, I'm Autumn Beckman, and I'm here to help you live your most luxurious life within your budget. I post new videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of those, and so you don't miss my daily community posts where I share the best sales of the day, and of course, amazing handbags that I find. Also, don't miss my website, autumnbeckman.com. I will have it linked below, and that's where you can find things that I have created especially for you to help you organize and curate a purposeful collection of your most treasured things, like the My Handbag Collection organizer. This is the front and back of the item tracker page, which is the heart of the organizer, and this is where you can write down everything you'd ever wanted to know about your handbags and small goods. I have also just started listing handbags and some small goods on my website for sale, so be sure you check those out. I'm going to have a lot more coming, like a ton more coming over the next weeks and months. So bookmark that page and check back often. As of filming, I have a bunch of Portland leather goods bags, most of which are unicorn colors you can't find anywhere else, that are available for purchase. And if you're wondering if I'm selling off all of my Portland leather goods, absolutely not. What I have up is only about half of what I have in my possession. And there are lots of small goods coming too. All right, let's get to the factory book. Okay, let's get started. First of all, I wanted to mention my ring here, which is hard to miss. It is Coach, so I'm wearing it specifically so you can see it during this video. So here we go, the cover of the factory. It's a black and white book, black and white cover. It says Portrait of a Leather Goods Factory in Downtown New York City, and the back of it is just black. It's a paperback book, not very thick at all. All right, let's get started. We'll just go through page by page. So this first page, called the end sheet, so the inside of the cover and then that first page, it shows you an overview of the factory, or at least part of the factory, with some of the workers sewing. This next page is a dedication, and it says, in appreciation of their extraordinary collective vitality and with great personal affection for them individually, this book is dedicated to, and then it lists, I would assume, all of the factory workers at the time this book was published. And it says at the bottom, only some of whom are depicted here, but each of whom has played an important part. All right, and then sort of the cover page, and notice it says words by Miles Kahn. So he and his wife Lillian were the owners of Coach at the time. Here we have the introduction. I won't read all that to you, but we can see one of the leather workers here. And he's working on something that has a kiss lock. Then he has some family photos up here, a Sprite. All these photographs would have been done in the 70s. I will read just one little paragraph from this page. It says, most people have never set foot in a factory. They can be excused, therefore, if they think of it as a grim place where rows of workers in coveralls perform mindless, repetitive tasks under the watchful gaze of an aggressive supervisor. We hope this book will help dispel some of those notions. Next page, we have more writing here. They talk about the ethnic mix, the diversity of their workforce, which represents the diversity of New York. And this little paragraph says, to all of us who know and love it and who are fortunate enough to be able to enjoy its many riches, New York is the best and most wonderful city in the whole world. We've adjusted to its size and tempo. We thrive on its pressure. With all its difficulties, we would much rather be here than anywhere else. And this talks about some of the special skill required for the workmanship that goes into Coach bags. This was written July 1977. Now, most of the book is like this, where it's just black and white photos, and then sometimes they're going to be captioned. So I'll go ahead and read the captions to you to give you a better understanding of what's going on in the photos. This says, leather arrives daily from the tannery, where it's undergone a series of procedures that preserve it and give it its special character. It's been scraped, soaked in tanning extracts, dyed and leveled. Now it's checked in, loaded onto carts, and hauled into the cutting department where the manufacturing process begins. So those are all leather hides. Here we have a bunch of people working at tables with these big machines. I see some hides over here, and I see these things, which I'm guessing are dies to cut pieces out of the leather, so they're uniform for the different bags. Each cutter is provided with the clicker machine, a massive hydraulic press, so that's what that is, on which he places the leather and the die. There you go, I was right. Operating like a cookie cutter, the steel-edged die produces an identical cut of leather with each stroke of the clicker. The cutter positions his dies carefully. He's mindful of the high cost of leather and is looking for choice cuts that will not throw off excessive waste. With the powerful arm of the clicker, a good cutter can produce the complete parts for several dozen bags in the time it would take to cut out a single bag with a hand knife. The cutter gets his instructions from the job ticket hanging on the wall. After the parts are cut and counted, this ticket will accompany the job through the different stages of preparation and assembly until it's completed. Hides are squared off, sized, and cut into rough blocks with this 54-inch steel blade. In a subsequent operation, the leather blocks will be slit down to accurate belt widths. Shear cutter judges leather for quality, weight, and temper before deciding how to cut it up. Drawn from the 5 boroughs of New York City, the men and women who work in the factory represent many different backgrounds and cultures. One only has to look at their faces to appreciate the city's extraordinary ethnic diversity. You see, that's always been important to Coach. Some close-ups of some of the factory workers. And more. Working individually or in teams of 2 or 3, bench workers perform the many hand operations which include cementing, combining, folding, and assembling. As many as 85 operations may be required to produce a single bag, and almost that many to make a good belt. They're all indicated on the job ticket, which is consulted regularly. Here a belt strip is finished off with a hot creasing iron applied along its edge, with lots of elbow grease. And here a live flame trims threads closer than a pair of scissors. Sizes are tied together in bunches and kept separately to facilitate handling until each belt has been properly imprinted with its size. Belt straps are stacked across the tabletop. The edges are then buffed, stained, waxed, and polished to the desired smoothness. Stain is applied to edges with a natural sponge and a soft touch, so it will not run onto the leather. Well, that's interesting. I would have guessed they might have been glazed edges, but they're just stained with a sponge. Work normally moves through the factory in fiber stacking trays, but sometimes it's simpler to grab the job and walk it over to the next operation. And OMG, look at these Coach bags. Which ones do you think those are? It's a little hard to tell from that photo. Finished belts, now complete with brass buckles, are stacked onto rolling carts or coiled up in trays. The midday bell goes off at 12:15, and there's now a 45-minute break for lunch. Work is set aside, and a variety of foods, including exotic specialties brought from home in lumpy aluminum foil packages, suddenly materialize in its place. So I think in showing this, they're really trying to humanize the factory workers and show that they're treated well. And it's my understanding that they were, that Coach was offering competitive wages and trying their best to make it a good environment to work in. There's time left over for a friendly game of cards, and the floor is open for discussion. There's just enough time left for a few moments of reflection. That's on this page. By the way, the factory was on 34th Street, so he's looking out over the Hudson here. I guess they used Charmin at Coach. Just enough time for a short nap. Okay. Back to work. The 1 o'clock bell has rung, and once again the sound of 40 high-speed sewing machines are heard throughout the factory. Sewing machine operators exercise great skill and draw on many years of experience in order to produce as many as 12 stitches to the inch through several thicknesses of leather. Bent over their machines, their faces set in total concentration, they seem oblivious to what's going on around them. And that is talking about this page. Interesting. Kind of makes me want to take up sewing again. Can you tell what these are? I cannot. And over here, the operator holds a large bag aloft and swings it around the turns in one continuous motion, guiding it through an especially difficult maneuver. That looks like maybe a large portfolio. Not entirely sure. And there's some detail work. Can't tell what's going on. Oh, she's binding something. She's adding the binding around the edge of some curved piece. The special touches that distinguish really well-made leather bags and belts are provided by the human hand. 10 nimble fingers, sometimes outperforming even the most sophisticated machinery. Lots to look at there. Here we are, edge folding. One hand applies the tension while the other negotiates a turn. The sample maker, working only from a sketch, must be able to make the first model entirely by hand. At right, he's made a cardboard pattern which he now uses as a template, tracing it onto the hide with a sharp knife. Watching the graceful movements of his hands and fingers is like watching a beautifully choreographed ballet. They're really laying it on here, aren't they? More shots of that same thing. This could be, what, a crescent bag? The supervisor of the files has 12 grandchildren and collects Social Security. Her hobbies include baking, knitting, painting, and growing houseplants. Interesting. Communications between factory and office are maintained with a paging system that summons key people to the phone. Many support functions of the factory take place in the office, known collectively as administration and sales. They include purchasing, inventory control, production, scheduling, accounting, and data processing. And that's talking about this page. So these would be some of the administrative staff. Some operations are best done by machine. At left, leather straps are combined and drawn through heavy rollers. The interesting looking hose was put on for effect by the operator and serves no useful purpose. How funny. The hose below does. It delivers compressed air to the gold stamping press. Holes are punched and straps riveted and edged apart with specialized machinery. Some of these machines are foot-powered, others are motorized, but each one must be fed by hand. There's a view of a worker looking through some crates. Oh, wouldn't you like to be in this room? Ooh, those are stewardesses. Stacks of finished bags and belts collect in the inspection department. They've completed their journey through the factory and are now examined and boxed for shipment. I'd take any one of those. How about you? What's your favorite vintage Coach bag? Let me know in the comments below. At 4:30, the bell has rung. After a brief crush in the dressing rooms, the factory empties out onto the sound of punching time clocks. Only a few stragglers remain. The plant manager watches as they gather their things and prepare to leave. The day is over. And there's one of the workers leaving. And then we have the same image, basically, as you saw on the front end sheet, except the factory's empty now. How nice. Well, there is the factory book. Well, I hope you found that enjoyable and at least informative. This was maybe the first time I've filmed a video in this way, so please let me know what you think I can do to improve on that, because I do have a few more videos forthcoming that will be filmed in a similar way. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Hope to see you back here next time, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.